ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. And this is not your run-of-the-mill MrWarrenHayes Show. This is not one of these directionless Thursday nights where I just talk about everything and anything without, trying to make sure that everything has like a direction. No, right here, what I'm doing right now is the NWA Powerrr recap. We're going to be talking about the February 11 edition, February 2020 edition of NWA Powerrr that just aired on YouTube.com. And I am excited to talk about it. I'm always excited to talk about NWA. And I talk about NWA live, like I said, immediately after Powerrr is done, over on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. I record this show for the patrons, for the supporters of the MrWarrenHayes Show. First and foremost, they get to join in on the live stream. They get to come out and hang out. And on top of that, they get to have early access to my Powerrr recap before the rest of the world does. So that's a good little perk. That's a nice little perk there over on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you're not a patron, well, this is the kind of stuff that you can get. You also have access to a post stream that I do every Thursday night immediately after the main MrWarrenHayes Show. So every Thursday, that's something that happens, and it's just for patrons. It's just, I talk about some more subjects, but take the time to hang out more with the people in the chat room. It's a lot of fun. You get me doing popping in with occasional commentary. You get my show notes, which has become a collaborative effort. I reach out to patrons to see if there's anything they'd like me to talk about and stuff. And hey, there we go. You can be like Nick Wolf here this evening, jumping in the chat. How you doing, Nick? That's what happens when you're a Power Pal level patron. So go check that out. Patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you're already a patron, well, you know all of this stuff. I'm just saying this so that when the people when the rest of the plebeians get access to this, they know that they can feel special like you guys. You patrons, you. Well, there you go. So be sure to tune in for that. Be sure to pop up back on Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern for the MrWarrenHayes Show as well. I think I'm going to have a busy weekend, by the way, in regards to not NWA, but WWE NXT TakeOver Portland. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff. Like, I'm going to do a prediction show on Saturday for sure. I think I'm going to do a watch along, and I think I'm going to be doing the post show for Fightful. It's going to be a busy weekend. Your boy Warren, keeping it busy. So all the stuff that you do, all the support that you show the MrWarrenHayes Show is greatly appreciated. Your patronage is greatly appreciated. Everything is. I appreciate you. That's all there is to it. Well, let's get to it. Let's start talking about tonight's edition of NWA Powerrr, which started off with Eli Drake and James Storm on commentary for the Dawsons, accompanied by Elijah Burke. Pope versus the Bouncers, accompanied by Eddie Kingston. And the Bouncers, of course, are Beer City Bruiser and Brian Milanis from Ring of Honor. So they're having their match. Look, this was a big, large man fight, a very, very large man fight. Nothing that's out of the ordinary, nothing that we've really never seen before, but it happened. Dawson and Bruiser, Dave Dawson and Bruiser run clotheslines at each other, but they can't take each other down. Milanis eventually comes in, and he and Zane Dawson trade some chops, some overhand chops as well. There's just a whole lot of brawling. Brian Milanis, though, has probably the moment of the match where he does a pair of avalanches and then comes with a running cross body. Milanis is a big guy. He's a large dude. He moves around fairly nimbly for a guy his size. I appreciated that because he doesn't look the part either. Like, he doesn't look particularly athletic, but I enjoyed this. The Dawsons double powerbomb Milanis off the second turnbuckle, but a big top rope splash from Milanis followed by a frog splash from the Beer City Bruiser put the Dawsons away. And after the match, the bouncers and James Storm pour beer into the Crockett Cup and drink from it. Now, I may not be the world authority on sports. You know, I may be an authority on multigrain bread. I'd consider that. I'd consider myself an authority on Stardew Valley. I might consider myself an authority on mid-2000s independent rock music. But as far as sports traditions go, wouldn't call myself an expert or extremely knowledgeable in that sphere. However, it seems to me you usually drink from the cup when it's been won, right? Am I right here, folks? I'm just being nitpicky. It didn't bother me. It's just a lot of fun. James Storm, he's a guy who likes to drink. Eli Drake likes to drink his water, conscious of his intake to maintain his physique. Tom Latimer comes out with Camille to talk with Joe Galli, the man Joe Galli. Tom Latimer's wearing his girlfriend's merch. Isn't that just the sweetest thing? And he says he's excited to get into the ring to kick the crap out of that old fart, talking about Tim Storm. Latimer says that James Storm and Eli Drake are not a real team, that he and Royce Isaacs are looking forward to getting a chance to win back the NWA Tag Team Championships. Okay. And then we move on to the match. Timothy Storm versus Thomas Latimer. Latimer goes straight for Storm, but Storm clotheslines Latimer over the top rope. There's a test of strength, or a few tests of strength that end up into stalemates. There's running shoulder blocks with between them both, just trying to egg each other on. But Latimer eventually tries to cheap shot Storm, but Storm has it scouted. Latimer eventually gets back in control with a chop and a chop to the throat, followed by a spear. And he stays in control for a while. A while. Yes, I said it. That's while. I'm settling that debate. That's how you're supposed to pronounce it. Just like GIF. It's not a GIF. GIF is peanut butter. It's a GIF. And yes, I know. The creator of the GIF pronounces it GIF, but he's still wrong. He's still wrong. Tim Storm fights back with a big boot and a falling neck breaker. There's a back body drop that he does on Latimer, but Latimer tosses him into the post and hits the brighter side of suffering. Tom Latimer's raising DDT, which is an homage to the band as Blood Runs Black. That's the name of one of their songs. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I didn't have time to do proper research, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it's referencing, and it gets the job done. Puts former NWA Heavyweight Champion Tim Storm away. Anyway, they put a nice emphasis on that on commentary, right? He just put away a former world champion, Hubert. There's no Huberts on commentary in NWA. Although I feel it'd fit now. Now that you say it out loud, they should get a Hubert out there. This was an okay match. As much as I like Tim Storm as a performer, a character, I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he kind of may have, I don't know how much he has to offer in ring. Of course, I don't expect him to go out and bust his ass every week, for these short matches here. I'm okay with him sparing himself a little bit, but they've got a whole slew of young, really talented guys here, which is really, really interesting. Anyway, the phony Mama Storm comes out again. I don't know what they're doing with this, but it didn't entertain me last week, and it's not entertaining me again this week. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. We'll see where this goes before I full on start disliking it, because you never know. I just might end up liking it. You never know. We get a recap of last week's national championship match between third degree national champion Aaron Stevens and Trevor Murdoch, where Trevor Murdoch went the distance, couldn't quite get the job done, got the time limit draw. Trevor Murdoch says that he's is at the commentary table, and he says he's never met anyone who runs as much as Aaron Stevens. He says the fans deserve a fighting champion, and he'll be that fighting champion. He says he's the roughest, toughest man to step in an NWA ring. Now, if that isn't the most PG way to describe yourself, it's more than PG. It's a throwback. It's completely a throwback. Because you can definitely hear guys in Mid-South in the 80s saying, I'm the roughest, toughest dude. You know? It's just like it just sounds very, very retro, very, 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 very kid friendly. I like that. It just made me fall. It just made me smile. In case you haven't heard, we talk a lot about it on AEW. How commentary is always putting over the fact Britt Baker's a dentist. Have you heard? Well, when it comes to NWA commentary, have you heard? Trevor Murdoch was trained by Harley Race. I mean, they talk about it every time he's out there. And he says Harley Race, since he was trained by him, he says Harley would be ashamed of those clowns, Aaron Stevens and the question mark. And that brings out the question mark, who performs for us the Mongrovian national anthem, which was very, very moving. And I think he ended up challenging Trevor Murdoch to a match, because he basically said, you, me, karate. I think that's laying down the gauntlet. I think that's how you challenge another individual in Monrovia. First and foremost, you do the ceremonial chanting of the Mongrovian national anthem first and foremost, and then you say you, me, karate. That'd be funny. Karate. Anyway. We have Sean Mooney who has his talky talk segment. Now I'm putting this out there. NWA, listen to this. I think there's missed opportunities for giving Sean Mooney's segment on the show a proper name. I submit unto you calling his segment Mooney Talks, or Show Me the Mooney, or Mooney is Money. Look, I'm NWA. I love you. I really do. They're pro bono. That's from me to you. Warren Hayes Creative Services LLC provides these three names for free, royalty free, for your use moving forward. I love you guys. That's for you. Those are for you. And I think you need to rectify this missed opportunity. What is he talking about? What is Sean Mooney? Oh yeah, Sean Mooney talks about the stipulation between Aldis and Skrull. This was settled at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view Free Enterprise this weekend, which was free for everyone to attend, but not on Fight Television, Fight.tv. That you had to pay for. But if you did get to see Nick Aldis and Marty Skrull confront each other, and thank goodness, flip the stipulation from if Marty loses, he has to refund the audience, to if Marty loses, he has to pay Nick Aldis $500,000. Because the idea of the babyface, if the babyface losing a match, then having to refund everyone in the audience is not a very big. You don't necessarily want to cheer for the babyface in that situation. I've talked about this last week. Too much saliva. So I won't go over the finer details again, but at least now they're given a stake for Marty that doesn't involve necessarily the audience being against them here, because I would want my ticket refunded. So $500,000, and Nick Aldis in a promo says, "Hey, we know you're good for it, Marty. Because he apparently got a really lucrative contract from Ring of Honor. That's the rumor. We know you're good for it, Marty." I don't think Marty's making like $500K a year. He's probably making good money. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely not making $20,000 a year. But I don't think he's making $500,000 either. Anyway, so that's cool. So they flipped that around. I think it's a good idea. That's what they had to do. And then a few announcements. Next week we're getting the first edition of the Squared Circle, which is this reality show, this reality competition television show where various independent wrestlers are going to compete to get a spot on the NWA roster. Sounds familiar. And that's going to be next week. They're actually doing that. They're preempting Powerrr next week to do the Squared Circle. So I think on your boys, on my end next week, I'll just come back and I'll watch the Squared Circle and we'll come back and talk about it. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully it'll be interesting. So that's what they're doing next week. And then they said that they're going to be adding more programming to NWA on top of that. Something called Powerrr Surge, which was going to be a sit-down interview face-to-face segment show thing that they said that's coming up. And Super Powerrr, which is going to be their big pay-per-view go-home show. I like the idea of the go-home show being like a special event. I like it because we've been trained over the past 15 years to be bored out of our skulls when it comes to go-home shows, to be apprehensive of go-home shows. If you want to make a go-home show has to be a big deal because it is your last show before a pay-per-view. You've got to go get those last subscriptions, right? Those last buys. I don't know why. Anyway, look, I don't want to get into the practices of other companies. What I'm saying here is that I like the idea of having your go-home show feel big. Make it feel important. It's supposed to. So good. Good on them. Next, we had Ricky Starks defending the NWA TV Championship against Matt Cross, who's back again this week. There's some grappling at first, some solid groundwork, but eventually Starks drop kicks Cross in the face. There's a monkey flip by Starks, but Cross lands on his feet, and he hits a big over-the-knee backbreaker. He hits a really nice handspring back elbow. At the 1 minute mark, they try to suplex each other. They seesaw until Starks actually pulls it off. There's a tornado DDT on Cross that follows, but Starks covers him, but only gets two. Cross hits the cross cutter, tries to go up top, but he runs out of time. Ricky Starks successfully defends or retains the title. They go to a double countout, but that's win number 2 on the Lucky 7 board for your boy Starks here. This was okay, but I kind of was expecting something else. I think I really do think I was expecting. This felt slow for these two dudes. I liked the grappling at first. I thought it was good. Thought it was building to something, but we never quite got there. And okay, second week in a row that we get a time limit draw. That's fine. And I get the idea here that they wanted to do a time limit draw for Ricky Starks to make sure that we all understand when it comes to the Lucky 7 rule that there can be time limit draws and they're in the favor of the champion. I get it. That's fine. Maybe we can go a couple of weeks without going without going the full 605. And it really does feel like they were setting up for a 10-minute match here as opposed to a 6-minute match. It really feels like they were establishing things and about to crack into it. I think they took a little too much time. I mean, like I said, the match was fine in and about itself. I don't know. It felt a little slow, felt a little lackluster. The work was solid though. Zicky Dice then comes to commentary just to troll Ricky Dice, saying that the difference between he and Ricky is that Zicky Dice finishes every time. We get a recap of that great match between Allison Kay and Thunder Rosa last week. Marty Bell is at commentary table. She says she says that she's with Melina. She stands by Melina. Melina saw something in her that her so-called best friend Allison Kay never saw. She calls herself a Latin lion, and Melina, she saw something in her, and whereas Allison is all about her. I'm not laughing. That's what it is. That's what she said. It's all about her. I just said it a little faster, so it sounded like I was, laughing. Her. But I wasn't. That's not how I laugh either. I don't think so anyway. Out comes Allison Kay then to confront Marty Bell. She says that Melina's brainwashing her. She says, Melina is Jim Jones, Marty, and you are drinking the Kool-Aid, and you are better than this, you're smarter than this. And she says that she will always be there for her, and Belle storms off. She seems very, she seemed put off by her statements. This leads us into our next match of the evening, Melina versus Tasha Steelz. If I've been following this correctly, I do believe, or maybe not. Hang on a second. Just before I say something completely absurd that I will regret, I am going to do a momentary moment of research right here, live on the NWA Powerrr Recap and Results Show, right here on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Let me see here. I'm just checking out Melina. Okay, Melina, this would be her, I think it's her second. What is this? No. Yeah, this is Melina's second singles match. Yeah, this is Melina's second singles match on Powerrr in NWA. Period. Tasha Steelz wants to show some respect, but Melina slaps the hand away. Steelz goes after her, but Melina hits a snapmare DDT kind of thing, which was cool. She pounds Steelz in the corner, hits a running knee and a face crusher. Steelz gets back at her with some great running forearms, a running European uppercut and a neck breaker. Melina did an odd suplex thing. It looked more like a DDT. It didn't look great. I'm pretty sure that's not what was intended. Melina avoids a cutter and hits the primal scream to end it. So there we go. And then after the match, Melina says that she shouldn't have to prove herself because she is a living legend. And she books a match with her against Thunder Rosa next week. And Dave Marquez was there. Bless you, Dave. Dave Marquez says, hey, hang on a second. Who approved of this? The NWA matchmaking committee? And she says, no, I approved this. I sanctioned it. I'm like, okay. So Melina does have, this is just confirming what I established a couple of weeks ago. Melina's a booker. Melina has booking powers. Maybe she should book herself into a managerial role. That's kind of harsh, isn't it? The point being is, we haven't seen much of Melina wrestle since she's been back, and there may be reasons for that. I'm very, very curious to see what's going to happen next week when she fights Thunder Rosa for the title. It's going to be really telling for me. I feel like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on, and I don't know if Melina, in this day and age, with the quality of women's talent that they have in NWA, I don't know if she has all that much to offer as far as in-ring performance goes, as far as wrestling goes. I think she's a great talker. She's a fantastic personality. I just don't know if she still has a role to hold in the ring. She's going to fight Rosa next week. It's going to be a big match for me in the terms of how she can carry herself with someone extremely talented like Thunder Rosa, who could carry just about anyone to a great match, I think. So, just throwing that out there, but reserving final judgment as if I'm like some kind of deity or something. All right, we're already at the main event. Boys and girls, Nick Aldis and Royce Isaacs versus the Rock and Roll Express, and out comes Saul Renaro along with May Valentine. They bought tickets to the show. They have front row seats. That sweet, sweet NWA money. They're going. They come down from the audience to sit down. Renaro still has his arm in a sling, and they're watching from the audience. And they're, commentary's like, Stu's like, there's no problem, with two friends coming to watch a wrestling. I don't know if it's Stu or Joe. I don't remember. And they're basically saying there's no problem, man and a woman. They can be friends and just come down to watch a wrestling match together as friends. Not a big deal. There's some back and forth with Isaacs and Robert Gibson to start. Robert Gibson, man, this was not his best showing. Usually they have Ricky Morton pull off most of the heavy lifting. I feel they switched it around a bit tonight, and I think it was glaring tonight that Robert Gibson he physically is not there anymore. He just really isn't. He hit a really oddball hip toss, but then did a really good single leg takedown. And there's a couple of times where Ricky Morton he's in the ring and he goes to tag Robert Gibson in. Like, he literally extends his hand so that Gibson can tag in, and Gibson just doesn't. He just goes through the ropes and he doesn't tag in. And the referee's like, hey, where's the tag? And then he's sort of like, oh, I'm just going to let that go. It was a little awkward. It's a little strange. There's a lot of offense with the Rock and Roll Express while Isaacs is on his back. They're working the ankle. Nothing much going on here. Eventually, though, Isaacs rakes Ricky Morton in the eyes to tag Aldis in. Ricky Morton, though, hits a Hurricane Rana on Aldis. The heels double team Morton on the floor, and Ricky Morton is your babyface in peril for this match. If you can believe that. He takes a beating until Aldis charges the corner, and Morton moves out of the way, and he finally gets to Gibson for the hot tag. Gibson hits a suplex, but man, every time Robert Gibson has to go to the mat, he needs the ropes to pull himself back up, or at some point towards the end, he literally he grabs on to Ricky Morton to pull himself up. It wasn't pretty. It just was not pretty. Royce Isaacs finally gets the win using with a jackknife pin with his feet on the ropes. Oh, the dastardly dastard. And then May Valentine goes to celebrate with Royce Isaacs while Royce Isaacs draws out Renaro. And that was it. That was NWA Powerrr for tonight. Tonight is an episode of NWA Powerrr that happened. You can completely skip this week. There was nothing really remarkable about it. And it's odd because I feel like the pacing of the matches was not as fast as we've become used to on Powerrr. I felt everything sort of dragged on a little bit. The promo work is always solid, don't get me wrong. Just everything happened solidly. Everything was fine, don't get me wrong. This wasn't a bad episode. I'm not sitting here telling y'all avoid this at all costs. It was the drizzling poops. No. It was fine. You can look at it and get a kick out of it, but there's nothing that stood out. No promos that blow your mind, but it's still a solid episode of Powerrr, just not as thrilling or exciting as we've gotten used to. And that's fine. They can't all be A+ winners. At some point, you're going to score a B+, and you're gonna be like, well, if I want to be valedictorian of the School of Wrestling 2020, I'm going to have to study harder. That's all. There you have it, folks. We got some good stuff lined up for next week, though, or in 2 weeks, I should say. I was saying next week, but there's no Powerrr next week. So stay tuned to my Twitter, twitter.com/MrWarrenHayes, of course. So that we can, so that you see exactly what I'm going to be talking about next week. I'll probably do something regarding the squared circle. We'll see how that turns out. So there you have it. We're going to wrap this one up. I want to thank everyone for joining me. Remember, tomorrow, if you're watching this, look, Thursday evening, 9 p.m. I'll just bring it down to its most simple appellation. Thursday evening, 9 p.m., youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes for the usual, typical Mr. Warren Hayes show. If you want to join me before that, Wednesday evening, I'll be on Fightful for the Wednesday Night Wars podcast, along with Sean Ross Sapp and Alex Pulowski. And there'll be a prediction show for TakeOver this weekend. There'll be all sorts it'll be a TakeOver cuckoo crazy weekend. So be sure to come hang out, and whenever you do decide to hang out, whenever you do decide to come over and hang out, I'll see you next time.